Meeting to order. And before we go too far, I need to deal with our friendly admin stuff, which is fun to deal with. So I'm gonna make things small and view gallery. Escape. There we go. There we go. I don't know about you guys, but Zoom significantly slows down the computer for me. All right. We have a little speech to give at the beginning of the meetings. Right after that, we'll jump in and do a little bit of admin. We do have a URL that we direct people to. And it's a little late in the game to be telling you this, but you should have known it ahead of time. And that is www.norwalkct.org/1913/meeting-notices. That's the URL that gets you to everything that we have for tonight. And members of the public can call in and listen to a meeting. They will not be able to speak or see any of the meeting participants. Each meeting will use a unique meeting webinar ID. Find the information using the link I just gave. Members of the public who wish to provide live comments will need to register in advance and use the Zoom meeting platform. All participants will be muted on entering the meeting. To speak, click raise your hand indicator, and you will be called on by the host of the meeting during the public comment sections. Please find the information using the link. Members of the public who wish to view the meeting but are not participating can view a live stream on the city YouTube channel. This stream is delayed by approximately 20 seconds. Please find the information using the link. The meeting recording and minutes will be posted on the City of Norwalk website within 7 days after the meeting. Members of the public who wish to provide public comment are encouraged to submit those comments via email in advance of the meeting. For these comments to be read into the record, they should be submitted at least 4 hours in advance to tmmaldonado@norwalkct.org. Calling the meeting to order has been done. Roll call, we sort of did. I think we should do it again. I'm sitting here going back and forth between applications in case you're wondering what's taking me so long. Anyway, Zoom doesn't seem to want to function particularly well. There we are. So the present tonight is Andy Conroy, Lee Levy, Daniel Sanchek, and Tom Farkas, which is 4 out of 5, which gives an option to the applicant to postpone. The admin side of this is that we had Tammy, why don't you go ahead and name who it is that withdrew?
I'm sorry, they're not withdrawals, they're postponements. It's the first item on the agenda, 1 San Vincenzo Realty, and then the 5th item or item E, which is MCP Wilson, property located at 320 Wilson Avenue. In this case, the attorney representing both of these applications seeks a postponement for the twofold factor of they actually have a medical issue, but then also they don't want to move forward with only 4 voting members.
Okay. I got 2 laptops going here. Maybe this will make a solution for what we're doing. But the issue in both cases is postponement request.
Yes, Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm trying to offer someone tech support who's trying to get onto the meeting.
All right, we'll take a second. Let's do that.
Yeah, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. We should be okay now. So yes, they're both asking for postponement, or both these items want to be postponed, opening of the public hearing to the February 16th meeting.
Let's take them one at a time. I'm still having trouble pulling the agenda up.
Do you want me to bring it on the screen? Just do a share screen?
I'll eventually figure out how to get to it.
Okay.
Here we are. All right, so 1 San Vicente Place was requesting a postponement. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. I don't see any reason not to grant it, but I want to make sure there is no board member present that objects. So if you
No
all would-
objection.
Okay, let me hear the board members. You all are in favor? Yes?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. So the item is postponed. I want to take care of the admin part of this first, rather than wait until we get to them, because people do come to these meetings, they plug in and then they're waiting and waiting and waiting only to find out somebody's going to postpone. We already have an advanced information. So item E, 320 Wilson Avenue, is that a postponement request?
Correct. Postponement request, opening public hearing, or request open public hearing February 16th.
All right. At least one of these has an attorney that can't be present. Which one was that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that it's the same attorney for both items.
Oh, it is? It
Yeah.
can't be present for both items. All right.
Correct.
So for that item E, 320 Wilson Ave, is everybody in favor? Say aye if you are.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so both items A and E are postponed to the next meeting. That brings up item B, which is 23011902. Lee, have at it.
Soon as I find it in my stack of papers here. Sorry for the delay. Oh, okay. Item number 23-0119-02. Patrick and Julie Bagos. Variance of maximum number of stories, 2.5 required, 3.5 proposed, and a variance of front yard setback, 30 feet required, 14 feet existing proposed to elevate for flood compliance and add a small garage addition, section 118-340C at existing single-family dwelling in B resident zone, property located at 10 Richmond Road, District 6, Block 5, Lot 6. Request: the applicant seeks variance for number of stories to raise the home for flood compliance. A 40 square foot addition is also proposed to slightly expand the attached garage. Background: the single-family home was built in 1929. It is existing, non-conforming in footprint, encroaching into the front yard setback. It is not currently FEMA flood compliant. Analysis and findings. FEMA flood hazard zone regulations are meant to ensure that all structures in a flood zone are adequately constructed to withstand a flooding event. The proposed height of the structure is compliant with the maximum allowed. The board has looked favorably on similar requests for increased number of stories for structures that will be built flood compliant. The request for number of stories and the very small addition to the garage are reasonable. Mr. Chairman.
Let me just point out that Pat Begos and I know each other personally. And with that in mind, I don't think that's a showstopper, so I'm not recusing myself. I don't think I've talked to even though I know Pat, I don't think I've talked to him in 3 years or so. So, yeah. Let's move forward. Do you have somebody presenting for the Begos family?
Yes, Mr. Conroy, this is Adam Blank. I'm the attorney for the Begos. I live here in Norwalk. As you heard, they're at 10 Richmond Road. If I share my screen, hopefully that's come up for you. It shows that they're sort of in between Roten Ave here, and there's Bailey Beach and Roten Point and Rowayton Avenue down in Rowayton, but they're not really on the water. They're sort of in the middle. This is their current existing house. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes overviewing this, and then obviously, as you know, the Begos are on the Zoom. They can answer questions that come up, and Mike Stein is the architect on the project, and he's going to spend literally 2 minutes just running the architecture through with you, so you have a feel for the proposal and why we think it's reasonable. So the property's in the B residence.
Before you go on,
Yes.
I don't want to hit a problem later. I'd rather hit it in the front because I think it's solvable. Typically, and I mean typically, like every time, we grant, and we've been pretty good about granting a third story as the house has to be lifted. Now, it happens that we also require people to stay within the footprint of the existing home. That has become problematic for some people, and they have taken a different course as a result. But we have stuck to that religiously. And I noticed that maybe that isn't what's happening here. So maybe the architect can think about it before he has to go on. Go ahead, Adam.
So, well, let me address your concern head on. So I think my belief is that the way you've said it is approximately right. Although I think there have been instances where the footprint has changed a bit. What's really irked you folks and where you've been almost certain to deny variances is when people have sought to expand in a non-conforming way, rather than sort of shift away from the water. So right now, this is the front. This is Richmond Road. Your front setback is 30 feet. Their existing is 14. That's how close we are to the street currently.
Yeah. Okay.
Normally, if we lift here up or up down, since we're already non-conforming, you don't need a variance for that. You can do it as of right. Okay, that's sort of not in dispute. Well, this nub right here, which is behind the non-conforming front setback already, so we're not actually encroaching forward. It's behind what this is allowed. We're allowed to be here. We're going behind that area for a little nub here. And the purpose of that is you've got this single car garage right now, which you don't need stairs to access the actual living space of the house. When it gets raised,
you will require stairs. Okay.
Will require stairs. So putting the stairs in requires us to bump it out ever so slightly to still allow a car to fit into the garage. That's really all that's happening is the variance is really to allow for it to be constructed in a fashion that lets you still put a car in and actually access your house. So
We have a couple of very good architects that sit on the board now, and I'll love to hear from them tonight. But, I'm sure that there's always a solution, so we'll find one.
Well, but again, I think it's because this is set back. But if we wanted to put something back here, there wouldn't be a variance needed for
Yeah,
that.
if you have an as of right and did it, and then said, now I want to raise the house, that's a different story. But I want to stick to the footprint of the house, and we'll try to figure out how to do that.
All right, well, so let me go through and then we can talk a little bit with the architects and let them discuss it. The three, so the house, right, the Bagos have been there for 30 years. You know that usually you guys have been very good about allowing it to be lifted. There is, we've asked for 3.5 stories in consultation with your staff as instead of the 2.5 that's required based on the raising it by 8 feet. Although we think in reality, it's actually 3 stories, not 3.5, because the top story doesn't have any living space in it that would normally count as a half story. And so if you care whether it's 3 or 3.5, we think it's 3. If that doesn't matter to you, because again, we're only raising it to 8 feet or so to make it FEMA compliant, and we're going to call it 3.5, that's fine with us. You've got the architecturals, which the architect will go through in a second. The neighbors, so they're on Richmond here.
Mhm.
These 5 neighbors here, so they're the 5 that all abut us. You have letters of support in the file from all 5 neighbors for the variances that are sought. And I'll just tell you that in the application, we kind of go through, and I won't read for you the various case law, but all the case law about FEMA presenting a hardship sort of in and of itself, and bringing a house up to comply with FEMA is considered an unusual hardship that allows for the granting of a variance. And obviously this is not going to affect the comprehensive zoning plan.
No, you don't have to beat that animal to death because we're there already.
Okay, that's fine. I know the composition of your board changes a little. I know you've been there for a while, and so sometimes we don't know for the newer folks, but that's fine. So with that, Michael, I'll let you, and I presume from the chair's comments that if you can focus your
Let's
talk
go.
on the nub.
Let's go to the floor plan, because I think that's really the issue that's at hand.
All right.
Well, here's the issue. We have been asked a few times to exceed the footprint of the house. And unless the house has fallen down, we insist that people stay with the footprint. Is there a solution that you can provide that accomplishes that?
Not that plan, the other one above. Here we go. So this is, if you see the lower right-hand corner, that's the garage. You see dotted line, that's depicting a legal parking space. Now, if you bite out the back corner of the house, the existing, where we're proposing a less than 40 square foot addition, there is no way to put a legal parking space in the garage because the width of the garage has been compromised by the addition of a new stair that brings you from the garage up to the main living level.
Mhm.
So in fact, we need to do this to comply with your zoning. Otherwise, we don't have a legal parking space. And, you could slide the building, you could put an addition in front of it, but that would be exacerbating the setback nonconformity.
Yep.
We can't put the stair in the back because it's not deep enough. And when you take that corner out, it's clearly not deep enough. So really the only way to make a legal complying parking space in this garage is to fill in that back corner, which, as the attorney noted, sits behind the existing house. So
this is the as is that I'm looking at, right?
no, this is the proposed building. If you want to go back to the site plan, Adam.
The survey?
Right, yeah, the survey, right. So there, you see the stippled area. That's the area we're filling in. Without that stippled area, we do not have a legal parking place.
Doesn't one exist right now?
It does because there's no stair. If we go to the back, go to the last drawings, the end of the file, all the way to the end. One more up. Okay, so these are the existing plans. It's a little hard to read, but you can see where the garage door exists now. There's 19 feet of depth and about 11 feet 8 of width. And then there's a little, there we go. Now we're talking. Now we can just slide it over the other direction,
To the right?
the other direction.
Yeah, I gotta move the people off the screen.
There we go. Right. So now this is the existing floor plan. So you see that there's enough room in the existing garage for a car because there's no stair bringing you up to the house. There's a one step up to the house. In the corner there, you see what's now the mechanical room and laundry, all of which do not comply, do not comply with the flood zone requirements. You also see the air conditioning condensing unit, which sits within the, existing within the setback. So what we're talking about is just squaring off that back corner, which then allows us to put a stair on the north side of the garage and fit a car and put it, and have a legal parking space within the space. So, our suggestion is that this is a very benign addition that's required by your zoning code.
Have you given any consideration that when the house is jacked up, you slide it back the required distance to make that entire addition behind the front yard setback line?
We have no intention of doing that.
Why?
Well, first of all, they have a lovely backyard that they want to retain. And secondly, the cost would be prohibitive.
Yeah, I don't think I want to go there. What I do want to do is make sure that we understand the new design a little better than we do at the moment. Seems like you took all the laundry facilities and moved them away from the garage area. Slightly increased the size. Wait, hold on. And slightly increased the size of the garage. And then after doing that, you're installing the necessary stairway to get up to the level of the house. Am I missing anything?
Now, let's go back to the floor plans, please, the proposed floor plans.
Yeah, I think you're right, Andy. Right? Like putting the stair in that location means that you have to shift the garage over, but do you have to put the stair in that location?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And to do that, they had to remove the laundry area.
Well, we had to remove the laundry because it didn't comply with FEMA. We also had to remove the mechanical room because it didn't comply with FEMA. They had to be lifted 6 feet. All right, so we found new places for them. And I propose, or I contend, that there is no other place to put the stair. There is none. We can't put
Could
it.
you show us the proposed first floor plan?
Sure, let's go to the next plan. So here you go on the top of the page, you see the living room. These are all the existing family dining, living, the new stoop that gets you up to the existing portico and then enters. And then above, and then you see above the proposed garage, the stair comes up and lands. You turn right to go to the main house. You turn left to a new mechanical room, a small powder room, and a study. So that's the main level, which sits above the garage. And then if we go to the next level, no changes of substance. And then I don't know if this drawing, do we have? Yeah. So here's the attic. I don't think this is an issue with y'all, but the highest point in this attic is 6'4". That's at the ridge in the main body. So this space cannot be considered a habitable space. It's illegal to finish as a habitable space. It does not comply. It does not comply with any of the definition of a half story. It is an attic and not a half story. Just saying. I don't think that's an issue here, but it's just a point I wanted to make. And then,
Well, hold on one sec. Let me ask Tammy a quick question. Tammy, If we approve the overall height at 3 stories, are they good to go?
Or 3.5.
Now, hold on. Tammy, if we approve the overall height in their plan and they say it's at 3 stories with an attic, are they good to go?
Yeah, so I had this discussion, or well, we had a email correspondence regarding this. The definition of story, it just says, I was gonna pull it up. It's I prefer, just so we're belts and suspenders, that we call this a half story, that little small attic space. Our definition doesn't account for whether or not it's habitable. It doesn't match up with the building code for story requirement. It's simply, I'll find it if you can bear with me just 1 second.
Well, it does say the gross floor area is finished for use or occupancy. That's in the definition. This cannot be finished for occupancy.
Hang on 1 second. That's
Yeah.
for the
What I
half.
want to avoid, Tammy, is saying that it's okay to occupy it.
Well, they wouldn't be able to. Yeah, that's
We
yeah.
can't. That's my point. It's-
Right.
it's-
Even if
Okay.
we have hobbits coming in to live in the space, I don't want to approve occupancy.
Yeah. If
Well,
you,
the
I'm sorry,
building-
just bear
The
with
building
me and I'll
department
tell
would
you.
not allow it.
Right, and I'm just going to tell you why I'm saying it is
Required.
technically, story, but, all right, so we go to the definition. Sorry, it's loading. You don't have it pulled up, do you, Michael?
I'll
The
try
definition?
to, I'm saving as a PDF. I'll pull it
I
up.
have it right
Yeah,
in
my
front of me.
computer is going just so slow. Oh, I'm on now. So the very first part says a story is the part of a building between any floor and the floor above, or in its absence, the ceiling or roof above. So, and then we define what constitutes a full story. So I was just going off of that very first part, that there is there's as existing, which the difference, the reason why it's, the story becomes 3.5 stories is because this lower level now has to be elevated so high to become FEMA flood compliant. But as is, we would deem that little small space technically a story if you go by that part between any floor and the floor above, or in its absence, the ceiling or roof above. Because while I agree, it's more like I don't know, like a chase or something like that, but it does have a floor below and a roof above. Does that make sense? Or, I mean, I'm not saying does the definition make sense. What I'm saying is, does my explanation make sense?
It means that whenever we get a 3.5 story request, just to satisfy this particular piece, I think we need to have a note made at the end that we're not granting occupancy permission for the half story.
Right.
Because I think he could slide in later and do it. And so I
Well-
don't want that to happen.
But even if that was the case, they would make an application for it. But the portion that they're featuring on the screen is simply that you don't bulk this space out, that it's still.
I want to be specific because remember, the variance runs with the land,
Right.
not with who's living there at the moment. So
Yeah.
the Begoses don't want to occupy it, but if they sell the house, the next person may.
Yeah,
So
but I
let's
don't
make
think
sure that-
building
that
code
it's
would
in
let
the
them.
record that it's not to be occupied, period.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand. You can make that a condition, sure.
That's fine. So
Andy,
we'll-
my take on it is to make this attic or half story legal, you'd have to have a walk-up stair, which they don't have. And you're required to have 6'8" headroom for at least 20% of the floor area. And as it stands, I don't think it would qualify. And we could put as part of our approval stating that any additions to the attic, be it dormers or height elevation changes, would have to come back to the ZBA.
Perfectly acceptable.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Now we just got to deal with the garage. I can see the point they're making. And we have had this very strict way of looking at not exceeding the foundation as it exists. I wonder if we could do a two-stage approval, or approve the enlargement of the garage first, and second thereafter, approve the raising of the house.
Sorry, I have one more question. Why didn't we consider stacking the stairs?
Very good point, Danielle.
So the stair that goes down to the garage could be under the stair that goes up to the second floor, or then third floor.
Can we see the lower level and the first floor plans again, please?
This one or the next?
The next
Well,
one, I think,
that's
will
the
illustrate
result
it
that
better.
shows that's the
But you see how the
first
two
floor, right?
staircases are adjacent to each other? They
Tammy,
probably
I
could
got
just be
to
on top
agree
of
with
each
you
other.
on that. That's a good call. That if the basement stair, if the lower level stair was pushed into the crawl space, and it could come up under the first floor upstairs, you'd have to eliminate the closet.
You'd have to rebuild the stair.
Absolutely. I mean, that's done all the time. You could take the staircase out in one big piece, relocate it temporarily during construction, put the new stair in and put the existing stair back in. I've actually had this done on several projects.
So Danielle and Lee, do you think, since there's an as of right to enlarge the garage space to the rear, that we could approve that separately? Because I do think the stair solution would work the way you described it, but the other is simpler, for sure.
Oh, I agree that building the addition for the garage certainly is simpler and less evasive to the existing house.
Significantly.
Yes.
It's a beautiful old stair. It's well detailed. It's lovely.
So I don't know that we've ever done that. So what I would suggest is that we don't want to do it together with approving the raising. So we want to approve it separately. Do we have to do that first in time and then come back to this, let's say next month, and talk about raising it? This is just the approval process. If we do them together, it looks a little goofy because they didn't apply for that. So we'd be approving part of the request to move the garage into a larger size.
But I mean, that's what, okay. Versus what's the other part?
Versus doing it all at one shot. If we do that at two separate times, in other words, come back and look at the raising of the house next month, which I think would be pretty easy to talk about if we'd already approved the expansion of the garage.
Well, I think, right, the expansion of the garage is the thing that I think, you could stay within the existing footprint and just raise the house. Right?
Yeah, okay. I mean, we could decide that, but I just kind of think that the simpler solution for sure is expanding the garage. But I do not want to start making exceptions and raising houses outside of their existing footprint. There's a reason for that, that the Begoses may never have heard from us. And that is when it was first proposed to raise homes that were needing to become FEMA compliant, there was a hue and cry that there should not be done. And the reason being that it cuts off the views of the water and the beach and, you know,
Mhm.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
To solve that disdain that people had, we talked about the necessity of raising the houses. Well, there's not a necessity to expand them when you're raising them, frankly. There just isn't. And so we, as a matter of routine, have made it required that people stay within the footprint. That's how that came about.
Yeah.
yep, I see what you're saying with the like order of operations here.
Yeah. Well, if you start expanding one, then you can expand two, you can expand three, and all of a sudden we're expanding them and raising them, and we're just not going to do that.
And what,
In this case, maybe the Vegases could get an approval for the garage size increase and then come back separately and ask to raise the house. Basically, they've already sent the information in for both of those things.
well, let me, two comments. One is, look, if you guys want to split those votes, and if you vote to approve the garage tonight, then I think, and the Bagos can shake me off if it's a no, I think that we can then agree after that vote has occurred to withdraw the height for this application, and then we'll refile so that it comes on the next
All right.
agenda. If that's
Right.
That's really good with me. I don't know about Daniel, Lee, and Tom, but I think my guess is that they'll like that just as much as I do.
I mean,
Jamie-
I just want to make an overall statement, and we've been down this road before in FEMA compliance, and there are certain necessities. I know that there end runs are made, you know, people want to say, oh, well, we're at it, why don't we do this and this amenity? This seems to be, you know, there's not a lot of wiggle room here. I'm respecting what they're trying to do. Give them that neighborhood, because that neighborhood, I mean, you trip and you're going to fall into someone else's foundation. It's very tight. And also, parking there is at a premium. So anything that can be done to get a car in the garage is a vote for that mechanism. So anyway, I'm going to wait and see if we do you know, divide this into two votes, but just making an assessment here. Yes, we do, because of the compliance here, it is tough, and you have to be very, very judicious as to what you're doing and how little you're doing to affect your neighbor.
Yeah, the issue with the height of the building, whether there's another half story and whether we have to preclude occupancy, would then be dealt with next month.
Hmm.
We would deal this month with just whether or not you all want to approve the increase of the garage footage with what, 40 square feet, I think, Michael?
Yes.
Right.
So let me just, before we take a vote and go down a road and get stuck, we need 4 affirmative votes because we were missing a person. So do we have 4 affirmative votes to approve the 40 square foot increase in the garage area? I know that I will approve it. Lee, what do you think?
Well, you know, it's a tough call. I think Tom brought up a couple of good points.
Yeah.
You know, I think there are 2 other possibilities, both of which are, you know, involve money, which is not our bailiwick on this.
No.
I really have no objection to the garage addition. I don't
Okay.
think that it's large enough to be critical and affect the neighborhood.
Right, and where it's located is acceptable for a garage addition. Danielle?
Yeah, so I mean, I do think, looking at the plans, that you could make this work within the existing footprint of the house if you stack the stairs. Because the garage addition is kind of tucked into the back side there, I don't really object to the way it changes the massing of the house. And it is pretty minimal.
All right, so I'm going to propose that the portion of their request that requires a 40 square foot increase to the garage be what we approve this evening, and that's all. And we will put off to the next meeting the full discussion of the height, the half story, the non-occupancy, and anything else that's going on.
I really see no reason to split it at this point.
Well,
think
because
the
I don't want
issue-
to, I do not want to deal with, I was going to use an expletive. I'm not going to use an expletive. I'm
Okay,
not going to deal with increases outside the existing footprint. We're just not going to do it.
fine.
Okay.
No fight here.
All right, terrific. And I know that that has been our policy for quite a while. It's not exactly news. And sometimes an applicant doesn't know it because how the hell would they know it unless they were really following us pretty closely. Okay with that, Adam?
Yeah, that works.
All right, so we're postponing a part of this until next, because the applicant's already made the application. And we could tonight approve the portion of the application, and then we can next week continue on as though there were a postponement, and we have quote unquote 5 people. That gives us a good reason to do it. And this time around, it's basically an as of right to do the addition.
Tammy, you all right with that?
So I understand about the splitting. Sorry, my concern is, so this is not our motion. We're just deciding on splitting it.
I'm
and-
seeing whether there's enough life in this idea to
Okay.
proceed.
Okay,
And
and
it appears
'cause-
that there is. So what we could do, because we don't have 5 folks, is push off the rest of it till next week and improve the 40 square foot addition to the garage where it was cited on the plan.
yeah, so I just want to note that Adam referenced some support letters that I don't have in the file. I checked what we uploaded from when we received the application on the website. I don't see those there either.
I can re-forward them to you now.
Okay, thank you.
And
Are
just,
are they basically from the neighbors or not?
yeah, they're from those 5 neighbors. And I just so, I mean, I think procedurally, just so I'm clear too, you're gonna, I know you've taken I guess a feeler vote, but I think you've got to open it to the public before you
I do,
actually officially vote.
we do, but just on the 40 square foot addition.
Yeah.
We're gonna split this to postpone the raising of the house and the approval of the half story until next month.
Yes,
This month, we're only going to approve the 40 square foot addition to the back of the garage. Procedurally, we can split things. Adam, you know that.
yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
And Tammy, I
And
forwarded you those.
I think we're
letters.
safer having 5 people on board rather than 4. I think you're better off with that too. So it doesn't look like we're pulling some stunt here. With that in mind, your presentation has been adequate to this point, and we will further address it next month for those items. But for the 40 square foot addition, is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on that, pro or con? We usually separate those, but lately there's been like nobody out there commenting, so.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of attendees. I know one is here for another item. So if you've dialed in, if you to speak, you need to press star
Right.
9 to raise your hand and then star 6 to unmute.
And then we wait a few seconds and see if there is anyone.
Tammy, I had forwarded you those letters back on January 12th, as well as when I just sent them again to you.
Okay, yeah, I was out of office
did
then,
come.
sorry.
All right, Tammy, do we have anybody that raised their hand?
We do not.
All right. With that, I will close the portion of the hearing dealing with the 40 square foot, and we'll postpone the rest of the application to next month.
So we'll read the support letters in at the next meeting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, they do have an as of right. That's really important in this case. Really important. Because if they did not, then we'd have to deal with it differently.
so what do you, sorry, just to clarify, what do you mean as of right? It's not as of right to do the addition because it's in the setback.
Talking about the height.
No,
Okay,
we'll deal with it next month.
okay. You've
All right,
thrown me off my
so-
game, Andy.
All right, so I'm going to move on to the next item. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, the Bagels, and we'll talk to you about the rest of the application next month.
Thank you.
Good evening. And then who's up?
Okay, our next item is 23-0119-03, John Spencer Malazzi, variance to allow parking within the front yard setback, section 118-1220J at an existing single-family dwelling in AAA residence zone. Property located at 19 Stephen Mather Road, District 5, Block 62, Lot 67. Request. The applicant seeks variance to allow parking within the front yard for an existing semicircular driveway configuration. Background. The property contains a single-family dwelling built in 1954. In October 2022, zoning and building permits were issued to install a propane tank. At that time, it was noted that the driveway was in violation of the front yard setback restriction, and the zoning permit was issued with the stipulation that the semicircular driveway be removed and restored landscaping in order to obtain certificate of zoning compliance. Analysis and findings. The staff is unable to identify a zoning hardship to support the request for relief from the parking regulation. While the variance discussions are not precedential, the board has denied similar requests previously. Mr. Chairman.
Who do we have speaking for the applicant?
I feel woefully underprepared compared to what I just saw, but you just have me, the occupant. My wife and kids are in the door, in the room next door, but I don't have a lawyer or an architect with me.
Well, before you go too much further, are you familiar with the code?
Only since this came up in October and what I've read online, I am, I believe, now familiar with the code. So I think I understand that there's not precedential reason for you guys to grant these prior. If you'd still allow me just to maybe present just a minute or two of background, all I can do is try to be honest and set forth sort of why we are seeking the variance.
Okay, after you present, I'm going to ask our staff person to see if there's any alternatives. But yeah, we have usually turned these down, well, more than usual. I think every single time we've turned these down. So go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I mean, we've owned the home for 11 years and we've never touched the driveway. When we bought it, it was like this. So whether we missed that, and we certainly had, an inspection, and whether it's a real estate agent or the titling thing, we apparently bought a home with a non-conforming condition, never touched it. And when we bought the house, there was an existing propane tank on the property. We chose over the years to get rid of it, not thinking much of it. Subsequently, we did buy a gas range and we installed this propane tank, and lo and behold, we learned about this issue just 3 months ago out of the blue. I know that that's not reason for a hardship, but now what we're talking about is displacing a driveway that has been in existence for a long time that we didn't put in. I don't know the effects of the water table or like how that would change the environmental landscape around us to now dig it up and landscape it. I'm not versed at this stuff very well. It's our only home we've ever owned. I don't have a long list of great bullet points to give you. I wrote down the water table issue. I think that when these days with traffic deliveries and Amazon's, I don't think this variance would have been necessary 10, 15 years ago. But these days, the way packages are dropped off and how fast Stephen Mather Road is and people bomb down it without this semicircle, the amount of difficulty that people have pulling out of our driveway and delivery people are just guests, we're used to it. But looking left and right is very challenging out of the one driveway that we would be forced to use alone. I look around our neighborhood, and again, we did not put this driveway in, but I see these kinds of driveways all over our neighborhood. So it feels punitive that we aren't able to have it, so to speak. And, yes, we could just get rid of the propane tank and go back to an electric range. And I guess this would go away, but we'd always have our non-conforming condition if we ever wanted to sell the house. And by the way, if we have plans to do something further, like a little bedroom or a bathroom, all within setbacks, this is going to come up again for any new developments that we might want to propose. So I don't know if any of that's helpful, but we're hopeful that. If you just one more second, I just thought this would be helpful to see, if you'd allow me. This is the picture. This is just from Google. I don't know if you can see that. This is in existence. We never touched it. It's been here forever. It pulls up right in front of our house. And then this is what we're talking about. Again, we never touched it, but this is the driveway. Comes right up close to the house. I don't know if that helps me or hurts me, the presentation. I just thought you should have all the info of what we're talking about.
Sure.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Okay. Again, I didn't put this stuff in. And again, that water, anyway, you've heard that's all I have. And all I can do is be honest that I know money is not a hardship. We don't have a lot to tear this thing up and re-landscape it is going to be challenging. My kids learned to ride their bikes and all that stuff on this driveway. And anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah. Tammy, do you remember when the code got changed to prohibit the semicircular driveways?
It's not that it's a semicircular driveway, it's that all of it is within the front setback. So that prohibition, that's 1220J. If you bear with me, I'll tell you, I think it was the 80s that it came in, but it could predate that, but I'll tell you in 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is grandfathered as well.
Well, no, it doesn't get grandfathered in because it's not a structure. We don't see a driveway as a structure. So the gold standard we hold to is if the driveway shows up on a 1978 topographic map, then we let them keep it. It does not. So somewhere along the line, not him, not his family, but some family before installed that without any permits. And we've got no zoning permit associated. Sometimes it gets tied in that way. That's not the case for this parcel.
Well,
So
where they would run into a problem is if they try to do a change to the house in the future and they have a non-compliant driveway.
Well, they've already run into the problem. We won't give them the certificate of zoning compliance because we told them up front when they applied for the permit that there was a violation with the driveway, unfortunately, and that it would have to be restored in order to obtain certificate of zoning compliance. So they've already had the building inspector come out and check the line. The line is safe, but they can't get CO for it because they're held up by us, by the violation with the parking in the front setback, unfortunately.
now, Tammy, we're looking at this as we don't permit parking in the front yard setback.
Right.
This is a driveway,
Mm-hmm.
just a driveway. And yeah, you could during a party, stack up half a dozen cars. But I don't see it as a permanent parking space as we look at it, let's say in Golden Hill, where people have paved their front yards just to park. I see this as a driveway, and we don't prohibit driveways in the front yard setback, because every driveway has to be in the front yard setback.
You want me to read the definition to you? I'm happy to do it. Or do
Please
that.
do.
Okay, give me just 1 second. Again, lagging computer. And I'm sorry, it's not a definition. It's the regulation I'm citing. Okay.
Okay.
And I would also say, while I'm stalling for time for this to load, there were a couple of, within the last couple of years, similar things, semicircle driveway and sort of a meandering driveway that we denied as well, they were the same situation. It wasn't a parking pad, it was access driveway, but it was all within the front setback.
Okay.
Let me get to it here. So hang on. All right, this is what we reference. All off-street parking and loading facilities, including all parking aisles and backup spaces needed for vehicular maneuvers into and out of parking spaces, shall be located to the rear of the required front setback line as now or hereafter established. The area between the street line and the front setback line, and on a corner lot, the side setback line along a street, except for the required access driveway and pedestrian sidewalk leading from the street to the off-street parking and loading area, shall be landscaped with lawns or other appropriate planting. Where the required parking spaces provided by a garage or other covered space or by roof parking, the location of such garage or structure shall be in conformity with the zoning regulations related to the class of the building involved. This was amended effective 5/26/2000. So the regulation existed prior to that, but it was amended for some particular language there. We have consistently, and it's, not a popular regulation at all. We have consistently enforced this throughout. And I don't mean just the variance requests that have come. I mean, this is a persistent violation because people are just unaware of it, which I can fully understand. And when we receive complaint or in the course of a permit issuance and the need for certificate of zoning compliance, that's when we require that they be resolved.
Okay.
Just curious, how close are you to Darien?
You could hit about a 9-iron there.
Because Google seems to think you live in Darien.
There's that's the Stephen Mather homestead. It's like this really famous house. You can't tell you so another reason, the packages that go to the Mather homestead, oh my gosh, they're also 19 Stephen Mather in Darien, and we just get their mail and their packages all the time. So.
And they're what, half a mile from you?
Less than that, yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just having fun looking at Google here.
Well, I want to advocate for myself. I want to do it. I understand that it sounds like that these get turned, there's no precedential. It seems punitive that we're not parking there. This is nothing commercial. We didn't do this. This thing just came up and it feels punitive. So I want to advocate for myself, but I respect that what you guys do has got to be consistent.
There could be some other circumstances, but I don't think they exist. I don't think, looking at the road and the houses on it, that we're talking like a major highway here.
No, people, I can't speak to that. People fly down Stephen Mather, but I can't speak to what you're, I'm not very versed at this stuff. I don't know.
I live on a court and they fly through my court. What I was worried about is that there's a tremendous amount of traffic at certain times of day, and we have to give you easy access to your property.
It's a cut through. There's no doubt it's a cut through.
Yeah, and it not being on the 1978 plot bothers me a bit too. So you did not install this circular drive?
No, sir. I did not.
And you've been there 5 years?
We've been here 11 years. Raised my 2 kids here.
Okay, all right.
And love Norway and city. Anyway, yes, been here 11 years.
I would say if you did a major update to your property, that you would have to change the circular drive. Because if you sit down with an architect, the architect starts looking at how do you get in and out of the house, et cetera. And let's say they wanted to expand it, then the circular drive would become kind of dominant in the picture. And I don't think I don't want to hear an excuse as to why we can't do something else because we have a circular drive. So if we were to approve it, I would ensure that we would say that any change in the future would require remedying that.
Okay.
But right now, I'm a little concerned about grandfathering. I can't figure out whether it was really there and just not listed or what. It's too far in the back in history for me. Anybody else have a comment on this?
Yeah, I just want to say, ask the question, what kind of condition is the driveway in? Because, long and short of it is that eventually you're gonna have to do something once it gets potholes and divots in it. It might be better to get rid of it than to go through the hardship of having to pave it, that it's in non-compliance. You know what I'm saying? Like what's the lesser of two evils here?
I don't have any, the driveway is usable and in fine condition. I didn't have any expectations of repaving it in the next couple of years, or that was not on my radar to repave the driveway.
Yeah, I don't think you would have to come back to zoning to repave your driveway, but you would have to talk to DPW. Do you know, Tammy, if he's got a problem now with DPW with multiple curb cuts?
We have not alerted Public Works. If he were to repave they actually, it's a twofold process, repaving or new driveways. Application is required through Public Works and they forward those to us. And then we flag many of those as not compliant and they have to adjust
Well,
them.
I think he needs to know that could happen. I mean, I think all we're doing is putting off the inevitable, but we could approve the variance and put the conditions on the variance. And then somewhere along the line, you got to deal with it.
So you're saying that if I ever go to repave this driveway, this is going to become an issue again at that time?
It'll become an issue not with us directly, but indirectly. And it'll directly become an issue with DPW because they don't allow multiple curb cuts except under a very unusual circumstance.
I mean,
Okay.
it sounds like the conditions we're gonna put on it means it'll become an issue if you go to try to pull a permit for anything else in the future too.
Sure does.
So you either deal with it now or deal with it in a few years. What's your druthers?
For money reasons, a few years, but that's, as you say, that's just putting off the inevitable.
Well, it is because you got multiple departments that are going to tell you they got a problem. So,
Well, even if we gave you an approval and you turned around and a year from now sold the house, this would be inevitably discovered by a potential purchaser, and become an issue.
Right.
could become an issue.
Yeah, it may not be.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating is it never came up for us in our, but that's water under the bridge. So what, how does that, how does that affect how I should think about this? Does that mean I should be getting this done, or?
Well, it just means that if somebody thought they had to deal with it, that then they
couldn't.
could buy your house. That's what that means.
So that hurts. Not that we're going anywhere, but
Right. So your druther is to proceed with the variance request?
yes, yes, please. If it buys me time, yes, yes, please.
Anybody else on the board have any questions or thoughts? I don't hear any. Tammy, check and see for raised hands. People listening in.
Yep, so no raised hand. We're only down to one attendee. So if you're calling in and you'd like to make a comment, press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. No raised hand.
Okay, no raised hand. So we're going to proceed to the next item on the agenda and we'll vote at the end. Okey-doke.
Thank you.
Lee, next
Okay.
item.
The next item, 23-0119-04, Leonardo and Natalina Fino. Variance of maximum number of stories, 2.5, required 3.5, existing, proposed, section 118-340C. And variance to allow parking within the front yard setback, section 118-1220J at an existing single-family dwelling in B resident zone. Property located at 34 Bird Avenue, District 2, Block 86, Lot 16. Request: the applicant seeks variance to exceed maximum stories allowed created by excavating without permits and to allow the parking area created in the front setback to remain. Background: the single-family dwelling was built in 1930. The owner undertook alterations and excavation of the front yard without zoning or building permits. The owner was ordered to stop work by both zoning department and building department in January of 2021. The property has been in the zoning citation hearing process since the summer of 2021, and the property owner seeks this relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals to cure those zoning violations. Previous variance application was made to the board in 2021. However, the applicant had to withdraw due to statutory time limits allowed extensions. Analysis and findings. This is a self-created hardship. The once sloping front lawn is now a large swath of stone, concrete, and gravel. If the board considers granting the relief, a condition of approval could be to restore half of the fill, grading, and landscaping to make similar front yard conditions as the property next door at 32 Burritt Avenue. Mr. Chairman.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but there was my staff report contains a typo. The previous application was made in 2022, not 2021.
Okay. Corrected.
And what month in 2022 was it? I forgot.
January.
January.
No, it was the original problem was January 2021. The application for variance was November 2022, and the timelines would expire. Time extensions expired.
So they're very close in time to the current moment. All right, thanks. Who's speaking for the applicant?
Yes, good evening. Attorney Lucas Thomas for the applicant. With me here in my office is Natalina Fino. She's one of the homeowners. And as it was just mentioned, this is a similar application, if not identical, to the one from November of 2022. This particular application, we're seeking, the way it's been presented to the board, we're seeking to a variance for the height and for parking in the front setback, which was caused from digging out earth that started from a repair of a sewer pipe that would have gone from the house, that did go from the house to right before the sidewalk. So the temporary removal and repair of the pipe at that time didn't need any permit. So that's one thing that happened that didn't really require it from the Department of Public Works, so it wasn't on their radar. Once they removed the earth, the person that they were working with said, well, you should really think about getting some space in here because of there's just no parking here. And they had conversations with him about the particular street and the venues that are in the neighborhood. There's just not that much parking. And it just snowballed to where, while they were thinking of doing that, they've been there since 1977, and they thought to reduce a part of the house, all as one encompassing production, And that unfortunately gets them to where they are today. There was violations from the building and obviously zoning. I have some pictures I'd like to show, and I'd like to start with the parked cars, if I could, Tammy.
Yep,
And I
give me
think-
1 second.
Yep, and I think that that'll work its way back to where we are today. And while she's doing that, I'll also say that my folks, my clients are elderly, they're retired, and that their idea, this 3.5-story thing, they didn't build anything to where, like one of the previous applicants here was solicited up for flooding. The structure stayed the same. It's on the same line with all the other homes in the neighborhood. But this is recent holidays and weekends. And if you can scroll down, you can see parking here on the street. This is a series of photos from my client's property. And that particular, on this one, that side of the street is actually no parking, but people continue to park. I mean, these are on the corner here. This is directly across the street from their property. And this is a regular occurrence. Multiple weekends and definitely holidays whenever I think it's a boat club down that way, right? It's the boat club. And that's been happening for a number of years for them. If you can scroll down, Tammy, it's just more pictures of illegal parking on the street. There's not supposed to be parking on that side of the street at all. And then again, more pictures. And then there should be one where actually somebody was partially blocking their entrance. That's further down this whole, that's all parking on a typical either weekend or holiday weekend. And it's like that. And I think hopefully it's the last one. There's the tip of red car that I recall. Nope, still that's more the blue car, that's illegal parking. And that's it. Okay. Somehow I think I may have missed it, or
It's the first photo.
is it the first photo? Okay. I think, yes, there we go. The second photo, if you can go a little bit further, just scroll down, just so you can see right there.
There it is.
That right there, I mean, that's just typical, and my clients it's their neighborhood, it's their home. They really have nowhere to be. And granted, this is a snowballing effect for my clients not getting permits. Yes, that is true. I think they had good intentions, though. They went about it the wrong way. They've spoken to all their neighbors. The neighbors are with them because it just takes 2 more spots off of the street, the cars. If you look at the survey that we provided, it's like an L shape where the cars would be parked. And both of those spots are in the front setback because they're close to the walls that were put up. One is parallel and one is going straight into the back. And that's where the 2 cars could be. You'll notice there's the sidewalk and all that. I did go and speak to Public Works. After the last meeting, I spoke to Mr. Ron Toth, and he goes, well, there's applications in place. You'd fill out an application, you'll do your sight lines, and we would, work with that part for the driveway purposes and the curb cut. And there was also a question at the last meeting about our plans. We have submitted updated plans, but I just noticed they're not actually, I need to explain them, and then if possible to continue this to the next meeting, because I want to submit the plans. Tammy, if you can go to the first page of the.
Can I get you to pause for a minute?
Yes, sure. I'm sorry, sir.
I do recall the application when it was first submitted and we didn't deal with it. But I read through it and I visited the property and I've looked at all the photos. What came up in the discussion about do we have DPW looking at it? Do we have the building department looking at the safety of uncovering the walls of the basement?
That,
That was to have happened before we processed anything. Has that happened?
I have, part of the application that has the engineers. I got engineers to look at the wall and it's structurally sound. Yes, it's part of the application. It's attached to it.
All right,
We
the
see that
building
on the
department,
screen?
the building department say A-OK?
Well, the building department has directed us to come here first.
All right, I didn't know that, by the way.
Yeah, so and that's part of why I just spoke to my
Playing
client.
games these days with the building department. I'm gonna bring that to an end. Tammy, didn't we ask them to take a look at this?
Did we, I'm sorry, are we seeing the report on the screen? Sorry, with my screen
No.
here.
No,
Okay, sorry, give me 1 second.
Anyway, just your reaction before we get too far down this, because I saw a memo come back that didn't answer a question we asked the building department. So this would be twice, and I don't like this. The building department was asked to review their plans and to take a look at it on site. And I was told they actually went out and looked at it. I don't know where that resolved to, and I want to know that.
My understanding of that, Andy, is that the building department issued stop work permits. They direct, the first stop is zoning. So you have to present your plans to obtain permits. You have to present plans to us to approve. Then we forward those on to building department. We have not forwarded any plans on because we haven't approved their plans because they're not in compliance with height and parking.
Right. Well, they may not have a safe building. And one of the requirements we have is that a building be safe. So, this is chicken egg
Well-
issue here that
Well,
we have.
I know Leo Guerrero, the building inspector, has been to this site a couple of times. I feel like if he thought there was something unsafe there, he would have flagged it for that. But what he flagged it for
You
was,
know, Tammy, I thought they did, frankly, way back when, that they brought up the safety issue.
I'm
Is
not.
there possible to get a memo from the building department? Like why they put the stop work order in? It was just not having permits.
yeah, it was just, they
it's
saw
not-
them actually physically
Yeah.
working on the structure and they had no permits. So they
Right.
tagged them for that.
They might have asked for an engineering report and the client tonight may
No.
have submitted an engineering report. I don't
No.
know. But this is really, I can't leave this as, I don't know. I don't know doesn't work here.
Well, no, the engineering report was requested by one of the board members here.
I believe that was me.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, it was
So-
Lee, but Lee was referring to what the building department had been discussing because we had seen that memo earlier. I don't know if he recalls.
I'm
it.
not aware of any memo. I apologize, but this is the structural report we had the engineers go out and do. And the whole front and the retaining walls. were-
Can you increase the size of it a little bit just so I can
Sure.
read it?
And, oh, Tammy,
Ah,
Thank
and
you.
really, it's that, that last line, our professional opinion that the existing retaining walls and that have been constructed correctly are deemed structurally safe for occupancy. Feel free to call me with any questions or concerns. I'll be more than happy to call them back if you want, but that they were out there and the whole area was reviewed. by-
well, let me say this. I'm not satisfied with this report
Okay,
because it's referring to retaining walls, not the walls of the structure. Andy, is that your reading?
Yes. And I thought that was what the issue was with the building department. They
Yeah.
thought that the retaining walls were just Jim Dandy, but they had an issue about the building.
Yeah, this is not sufficient for us to make a decision on
okay.
because
Well,
it
it isn't our
does
bailiwick
not
either. That's why
include,
we're asking the building department to step in and tell us about the safety of the structure. Geez, what's so goddamn difficult about
I would also add that the plans are very difficult to read.
how about impossible?
Yeah, okay, we could go with that.
Thank you. No, this is not not what I asked for. And it's insufficient because the foundation wall at the basement level has been exposed and we know nothing about the condition of the walls, the footings. I would imagine that if one dug down further below the foundation wall that's been exposed, we're not going to see a footing. We're going to see something that was typically built in the 30s, which is just Some rock
Forward.
laid there.
Most.
Well,
You know, we're gonna have to have that, period. And there's no point in even going forward. I'm cool with doing a postponement.
sure,
But, you know, Tammy, we gotta get a hold of building department and stop playing games with them.
All right, I'll see if I can get them to give us a memo.
so, okay, so can,
I think you could tell them fairly that we do have an application and that we were considering it, and we have postponed until we know that uncovering the basement left us with a safe building.
may I inquire, sir?
Sure.
So would it be coordinating with the city's building department, with Leo or somebody in his office to come out and give you a report, or do you want me to?
They're gonna ask you for an engineer's report.
Okay,
That's what they're gonna do.
okay. That's fine. So I will, through Tammy and I guess Leo, I'll coordinate with them and try to get whatever is needed. And
All right, good.
we do believe it's safe, but I have no problem doing what needs to be done to satisfy your safety
The board.
issue. Yes.
All right, so if we can have you accept a postponement and we'll deal with timing issues later. But right now, the postponement agreeable to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, would to the next meeting would be great if I can get it all coordinated by
Yeah,
then.
hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully.
uh,
But in the meantime, do not delay in contacting the building department.
No, I speak to them on multiple, for other properties as well. So I have no first name basis with Leo.
All right, terrific.
Danielle, I'm sorry, Andy, Danielle, you were worried about the revised plan, or not worried, but you couldn't, the
I mean,
revised.
I can't
plans?
read
We're,
like
we're having trouble with the plans, but let me. let-
any of it. I
Andy
can't read the
speak.
section. I can't read. I don't know if it's the scan quality is not good enough.
I
But
will,
it's impossible to read it.
very, very well. I will get that redone as well so that it's legible.
Okay.
It may have been simply the scan, the way it was scanned, but I will correct that.
But going back in time, the
Yes, sir.
original difficulty we had was knowing that the building department had questions, and we knew that the building department had looked at the walls, the retaining walls going out toward the street, and that they thought they were fine. The issue was the building safe, and what were the building plans, and had an engineer looked at it and signed off on it, and we kept getting yes, 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 but then nobody could actually produce anything. So I wanted to make sure the building department had gotten the engineering report, had gone out and looked at it, and that it is safe, so that we could look at this as a variance like we normally do.
That very well. I can tell you my experience for this particular file when I went to the building department and they did say to me, "Oh, we were out there already. You need to go get your variance first before you file your paperwork with us." So I
Well,
unfortunately,
Tammy's going to have to call them, Lucas, and she's going to have to tell them that the board asked specifically. And they may have gotten an engineer's report and we don't know about it.
okay,
I have no idea.
I'll be happy to follow up in any way, shape or form between the building and the board here.
Let me put this on the record. In no case will we ever deign a building to be safe. That's the building department's job,
Yes, sir.
ever.
I think that's fair. Yes. I've taken it from the position, I thought that I would have thought that there was something internally between the departments because we had informal conversations with and they've been out to the property. And that's when
Well,
this,
if they had an issue of whether or not you'd requested a variance and that we were considering it, then that issue is mute because we have considered it and we're postponing.
yeah,
We need to know the building is safe,
yes,
period,
sir.
end of discussion.
Very good.
You folks available for a quick check on postponement? How many of you were in favor? I am.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it's postponed.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good
Aye.
evening.
Good night.
Tammy, I'm serious about this. You get runarounds from the building department. We will never, ever, ever say a building is safe.
You
Understood.
can't.
Yeah. I think, yeah,
I don't care if we have engineers and architects on our board and that they're the best qualified people in the world. This board is not the one that says it's safe.
mhm.
Could you see the cross swords that was safe and they come in and find us not safe? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, just to.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm
mute
just not
myself.
going there.
Yeah.
And I'm furious, just absolutely furious, particularly after we got that response back on the hotel. We asked a very specific question. Very specific question. We got a BS answer back from them. So the building department is not in my good stead at the moment.
Ugh.
Did you guys know of the response that we got back from? Remember we said that the approval was conditional, that we wanted to make sure that there was no heavy equipment in the portion of the
Oh, yeah.
wood that was extending past 5 feet, I guess it was. Trying to recall. I think they wanted to go out to 4 feet and we said 5 feet. Now, by the way, is there heavy equipment right in that portion of the hood? And the answer we got back is this, oh, everybody who's an engineer looked at everything in the building and the building is just wonderful. That isn't the freaking question we asked.
Well, Andy, if it makes you feel any better, they are proposing to increase the size of that hotel by 30% by going to the north.
Further
just
toward the
tossed that out.
intersection. Further
Pardon?
toward the intersection.
Towards the bridge.
You can't go the other way because there's a railroad track there.
No, they're
It
headed,
goes south, I guess, but
no, they're headed, they're
Gonna buy the building
proposing-
next door?
They're proposing to tear down a historic building to the north to expand the hotel. The Norwalk Preservation Trust is in discussions with the owners.
yeah, I think there should be. I don't mind a hotel down there if the hotel can be reasonably occupied. There had been discussions in the past as whether we could get enough occupancy to justify a hotel at that location.
Apparently,
if
they
they're-
are booked.
All right, if
No.
they are reasonably booked, then that planning piece of the whole thing is okay. The only reason I brought up the damn thing in the first place was because of the earthquake thing, and everybody thinks that's a big joke until you have an earthquake. Then it's not a joke anymore. Somebody had said to me in the building department about 3 or 4 years ago, well, it's hurricane proof. I said, and when the hurricane can move the building back and forth 10 feet at the top, then I'll take that as okay. I haven't seen an earthquake do that lately, but hey, maybe. But that's the reason. And to think that we don't have earthquakes frequently, therefore we're safe and we aren't going to have any, oh, come on. Yeah, that'll be the day. We had cracks in our foundation that we fixed that were caused by the, 70 something or other earthquake here. And there've been little minor ones all the time. It's just they aren't big enough to make a big deal. So, I know that isn't high on your list, but I want to make sure that we don't have heavy equipment near the edges of roofs on tall buildings. It's just that simple. I thought we had an agreement, Tammy, with the building department, and they had set, we suggested 7 feet back, and they came back with 5 feet. And I don't know what there is in our record, but I know it came up in other times when the applicant wanted to push it to 3 feet of lots of equipment, all the way up to 3 feet to the edge of the roof. And that's nuts. That is just nuts. All right, now architect can tell me I'm crazy, but
No, I think our agreement with the building department is the zoning code, right? Like, that's why they
well,
exist.
it's that and the building code. I mean, they
Yeah.
can change the building code and enforce it, and that's beyond us. So I thought they had agreed to do that, and I don't understand why they don't seem to recall it.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that I'm aware of is that the building code is we mirror that 10-foot setback for mechanicals only. So, and that's, I think, so they can service it safely, I think is the rationale of the building code?
Well, I think our architects would probably say that the visuals make a big impact. So if you're in taller buildings anywhere nearby and you're looking down, you don't want to see a trash heap down there. Granted. But we also have this issue of, are we making sure that we're safe? And if we can then give a variance to move things forward and closer to the edge, is that a good safety move? And I really think the building department should be involved in that decision, just personally.
Okay,
All right, so what do we got to go?
that's it on the agenda.
Well, we should then deal with the one item that we said that we would approve or disapprove, right?
Well, I think we actually need to vote and actually approve the first item we heard.
Well, what's the first item?
We have
We
two
did,
votes,
we're
right?
okay to postpone.
We got Vegas.
Yeah, we got Vegas and the 40 square foot garage increase.
Yeah.
Tammy, am I missing something, or there's absolutely really nothing that would stop them from increasing the garage side in the space that they identified?
Yeah, no, they can't do that as of right. It's within the front setback.
Just happens to be behind
So
their
we- so
existing
we could look at it
nonconformance.
As being improper in some way and extending out into the neighbor's space, or becoming a visual impact that is negative, and that's not going to happen.
Well,
Not a-
I feel it's not going any closer to the neighboring property, and
Then
it's
what is
going
it?
no closer to the street line.
Yeah, that's how I view it.
We
Although I
never,
did think they had an as of right, but I'm wrong.
we never heard the neighbors' letters, right? He forwarded them to you, but we never, I imagine they're all affirmative, but yeah.
I have dealt with that area. If they're sending them into us, I guarantee. they're affirmative. Yeah,
They're all too close to each other. I mean, literally.
they are, but they keep wanting to get even closer.
Well, they are now. Inch by inch.
Inch by inch, exactly. And now they want to go up high in the sky. So, hey. There are buildings to the interior of these areas that are slightly raised and aren't going to have to go up with the code, I don't think. And if you keep raising houses in front of them, then they can't see out to the water anymore. And I think that's a bit of an issue. And when people raised it, when we first started granted approvals to be FEMA,
Yeah.
that was a big deal. And if you start thinking of the entire coastline, that's the case, then anybody just inland who did have a view will no longer have one. Yeah. And that's us. We're
Well,
approving it.
I'll make a motion, we approve this 40 square foot addition. Within the front yard setback.
Do we have to do anything else, Tammy, or just approve the variance for the addition within the setback?
Yeah, we'll just state that it's just for that, just that 40 square foot addition only.
All right. And that the rest of the application that deals with raising the structure will be dealt with in the next meeting.
That's fine.
All right, so all in favor?
We
I'm gonna
need somebody to
second it. I'll
second
second
it.
Oh,
Okay.
By the way, seconds make no sense the smaller the group you get.
I know. I'm in favor.
I'm in favor too. Anybody else?
I'm in
We're
favor.
all in favor? Good. So it passes.
Okay.
It needs 4. So it got 4, it passed.
Okay.
Tammy, keep me straight here because I just lost the agenda on the other computer.
Okay, so we're looking at 19 Stephen Mather Road now, John Spencer Malozzi. This is the semicircular driveway in the front setback.
I know that the department's been on top of circular driveways and denying them and asking people to remove them. And coming up with alternatives, incidentally. The department frequently said, here's how we think you should reset the drive. In this particular case, I just, if it's been around that long and it existed, and it's a little unclear exactly when it was installed, and it's been probably at least 10 years, I'm okay with giving the guy the variance with the condition on it that if he makes any alterations to his structures on his property, that he deal with the circular drive, meeting the code at that time.
I agree with that. I
think that's
think
reasonable.
that, yeah.
All right, say second.
Second,
I agree with that. I think we're kicking that, I mean, not intentionally, but that can's gonna be kicked down the road to the next buyer, so.
Yeah, it is doing that, but after we do it and before we say goodnight, I'll tell you why I'm kind of leaning that way. But we should do the vote and then I'll tell you why.
I'm sorry,
I favor it, and I think it's okay to get the can down the road because the way we phrased it and set it up is he can't duck it, and or the future owner duck this thing. It's got to be dealt with at some point.
the motion for the condition, the motion includes the condition that any alteration, interior and exterior?
yes.
Yeah.
Anything that requires zoning approval.
So like an
And,
AC
and
unit?
or the approval of our Public Works Department.
Okay, so what if they want to add, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but what if they want to add another propane tank or an AC unit or a generator? Those are all going to, so the next zoning permit required is going to trigger either the resolution, the removal, or
Didn't they include that with this?
so that the permit that they received was propane tank. We issued the permit to allow the propane tank with the provision that the driveway be resolved in order to get certificate of zoning.
Well, the
compliance.
resolution is will approve the variance that the driveway remains as is, with the exception that any future activity that requires approvals from either the ZBA, the zoning department, or Public Works, and then he's going to have to resolve it with the code that exists at that time. And the reason I'm saying it that way is I do know that there is a big push to allow circular drives, so let's just let it go for the moment.
Understood. And who seconded it? Sorry.
I'll second it. I'll let Tom second it.
Tom
Okay,
seconded
I'll
it.
second it.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. But before we go on in the minutes, the difficulty I was having is that we had a couple of board members that were kind of angry about the fact that you couldn't put a circular drive in. And they spoke eloquently about it. And one of the things that they said was, if you just drive around, you'll see them all over the place. So I really never focused on that when I drive around. So I drove around quite a few of our communities in West Norwalk and up by Cranberry and down here in the Rowayton and Brookside area. And they're all over the place. So, you know, whoever was preventing this from occurring didn't do a very good job as far as I was concerned.
So I should clarify, semicircular driveways are allowed if they're behind the front setback. So if you got those two
Well, these are all
branches,
the front setbacks.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
obvious.
well,
I
that
can
might be
send you
true,
photos
yeah.
of them all. And
And-
there's just so many of them.
they're
Ken.
all without permits.
Well, this property has a
maybe,
pretty far front
Maybe, and
setback
may-
too.
and maybe
like-
they'll have to be dealt with, but we could also change the code to allow them in certain circumstances. I think if you're on a busy road, they make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's safer.
I think so, yeah. Anyway, so I think somebody got a wild hair and then just decided, okay, we'll write it out of the code. I think that needs to be reexamined. Anyway, with that, part of the reason that I lean toward letting people resolve these things over time. That's all I have to say on that subject. We should deal with the minutes now. Yes, so we can all go and enjoy our evening.
I
Up to midnight like I did.
have no issues with the meeting minutes as I read them.
Okay.
So we have
Do we
December
need the
1st.
recording to continue? I don't know if it is.
We're still recording, yes.
Okay, all right,
So we're talking about December 1 and December 15 minutes.
all right.
So we're going to vote separately, right?
So we can just, yeah, we only need 3 people to form a quorum to pass this thing and only 2 people. Therefore, if you have a first and a second, it passes automatically. But since we have 4 here tonight, and everybody's going to weigh in on this, I presume, I think that we put them both up for approval together.
Well, actually, I was not here on the 15th, so I can only vote on the 1st.
All right. Good enough. We'll do that one first. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
And you're not participating, Tom.
Now
Did you just
I'm
say?
abstention, yeah.
You're an abstention. Then we do the second item, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You know, we should probably follow Mason's rules and not Robert's rules. Masons are meant for government boards. And somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to deal with that, because having a second on everything is just ridiculous when you have small board. Okay, what else we got?
I have something to say about our training.
Oh,
So
About time.
we
you do?
are going to, it'll come to you via email next week or the following week, an opportunity on March 11th to hopefully knock out all or most of the land use requirement. We'll be sending that to you shortly. Okay, it's a Connecticut land use law for municipal land use agencies, boards and commissions, hosted by Connecticut Bar Association. And that will be, as I said, March 11th. It's all going to be a webinar via Zoom. We're going to send you the information. Okay.
I bet it's 3 of those now, and I can tell you that while it sounds scary, there's going to be a legalese from one end of it to the other. Actually, the presenters do a very good job, and a smart average person can follow it just fine.
It's specifically targeted for,
Yeah,
you folks. So
it's just that sometimes people get nervous that, we're
Yeah.
doing,
Sure.
we are completely into lawyerese, and we're not.
Yeah.
They are going to refer to legal issues, but they will give you advice that general trends. And for instance, if there was a trend to move away from grandfathering, they would tell you about it and tell you how far that's progressed in this state. Because there are things that happen nationally and things that happen in states, and we're only concerned with what happens here in this state, as long as we're not violating the Constitution of the United States. Anyway, that said, I think I'm good. Anybody else have anything to say? I talked too much tonight, way too much. I was too ticked off to make sense there for a while.
we got a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, sure. Anybody second?
I'll
make a
second it.
motion, we adjourn.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good one.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Thank you,
next
everybody.
month.
Andy,
Thank you.
hang around for a minute so we
Okay.
can chat. Everybody else can go.
Yep. I'm just going to stop recording.
Okay.